gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain.
I'm Lynn.
I'm Juliana.
And today we're doing another top 10 list. We haven't done a three-person top 10 list in a while. We're going to be doing our top 10 favorite fantasy games. So, I had absolutely no problem except for I had about 5 games battling it out for the last place on this list. But other than that, I had an overabundance. There's so many generic fantasy games out there. I had an overabundance. Did you guys have any issues with putting this list together?
I had a little bit of trouble because I think it was mainly, there are some games that probably other people would think were fantasy, but for some reason I felt they weren't fantasy enough.
Oh, so you went very restrictive on your definition of fantasy then.
That's also how I felt about mine. Is like I was thinking, there's always that fantasy versus high fantasy in book genres. Mm-hmm. And so I was just very picky about what I picked as
What you picked as fantasy. Well, fair enough. Lynn, why don't you deal out our order that we're going to do our... Ooh, a queen. A 2. I think I'm going last.
Joker?
Wherever you want that,
Wherever
I guess.
I want.
Yeah, that's not happened before.
I want to go first.
Okay.
Well, then I guess it's going to go Lynn, Juliana, me. So, without any further ado, let's get to our number 10s. Number 10! So, Lynn, start us off.
My number 10 is Fantasy Forest. Now, this game is like Dungeons and Dragons meets Candyland. And...
That's a fairly good description,
I mean,
actually.
there's a wizard, there's a dragon, there's vampires, there's ogres, there's all these cool fantasy creatures that you have to battle with cards, and it may be mainly nostalgia because I had this as a kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say this was your very first fantasy board game, wasn't it?
But I love it, and while it's not the greatest board game, I still think it's fun.
Fair enough. I got nothing to say.
I want to play it.
Like
it's a very kiddie-ish game. It's very much for kids.
Yeah,
look at those haircuts.
Oh,
exactly.
very. What was it like? What year did this?
1980. 1980 is what it says.
1980. Very 1982 with copyright on that.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got for us, Juliana?
All right, my number 10 game is 5 Minute Dungeon, which is a cooperative game with. You're battling, it's a dungeon crawler, but with cards, and, you have different characters who have different abilities, and you're trying to work together to defeat the deck in 5 minutes. And it's actually a really fun little game, and there's, an app that goes along with it, and they have different voices, and they, tell you, time's up. There's, anyway, it's, really cool.
I don't know if we've tried it because we played a game that had a similar name, but I don't think it was this one because the one we played didn't have an app.
No.
So I don't think we've actually tried this one.
It's got a weird shaped box. It has an hourglass shaped box.
No, we did not. So. No. I think ours might have been called 15-minute dungeon or something.
I don't know.
I don't remember. I was thinking you were talking about that for a minute, and then I'm like, no, this is not the same game because our game didn't have an app. Anyway, so for my number 10, I have Mystic Vale, or as Alex always calls it, Mystic Valley. And this is a weird sort of, they call it a card crafting game. It's sort of like a evolution of the whole deck building idea. You draft cards to slip them into these clear sleeves that can hold up to 3 different effects. The effects are in different places, and I love doing that. And then there's this awesome press your luck element where you slowly draw cards trying not to get more than a certain number of these negative effects that will make you lose your turn. But as long as you don't, you then can use all the resources on the cards that you drew. This is a really cool game. I really enjoy this one a lot. I love building all of the effects. I love that your deck never actually gets larger, even though it plays like a deck building game, because you're only able to add effects to cards you already have. And it's a really interesting sort of mechanic. If you haven't tried it and you are a fan of deck builders, I would definitely recommend Mystic Vale. So without anybody had anything they want to say on Mystic Vale?
Nope. No.
So then without any further ado, let's get on to our number 9s.
All right,
Number 9.
My number 9 is Upon a Fable. It is says it's a strategy board game, but it's also there's a lot. I guess it is strategy-ish. There's sort of worker placement-ish, but you don't have workers. You just you have like a mat, like a personal player board in front of you, and then you have options of things you can do via the personal player board. And you can get more workers, because they're not really workers to put on the mat. They're just like
resources.
It's resources.
I never remember how to play this game between playing this game. Like I don't remember. This is one that's just so forgettable for me. It just goes right out of my head as soon as I'm done playing it.
The box is pretty. Yeah, it's really pretty.
It is pretty.
It's kind of spooky.
What's hilarious too is, so you're obviously a big fan of this game, and you wouldn't have even owned this game if it wasn't for a fluke, because you went at Gen Con to pick up a game from me, and they had a buy one get one on games in that booth, and you just were like, ooh, give me the fairy tale one.
Yeah.
You just
I'm a sucker for fairy tales.
What do you got for your number 9?
My number 9 is Multi-Universum. Let me see. Multi-Universum.
I think it's upside down.
No, it's upside down.
Oh no, I'm leaving that in.
Okay, great. Now turn that up. Listen, all right. This is the right side up side.
Indeed, it is.
Okay, Multi-Universum is a really fun game. We did a review on it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I know it's weird that it was only number 9 on this list, but you'll understand why later.
Well, because there's probably a lot of fantasy games that you like.
Yeah. Multi-use cards, a little bit of worker placement, closing some portals, weird anthropomorphic gummy bears.
I would argue that gummy bears are already anthropomorphic.
Okay, but these are actually like moving around. Well, I guess they're not really
They're
moving because
they're living.
They're living,
yeah, they're
living
alive.
gummy bears.
So
and
but
murderous.
I would argue that this is sci-fi though, and not fantasy. I'm gonna say I'm gonna call shenanigans on this one. Say it's sci-fi.
There's at least 2 fantasy worlds in there, though.
There are worlds that you can
there's
go
a goblin on the box.
Yes, no, there are definitely. Well, he's an alien. He could be an alien from another dimension. There are definitely worlds in there that have obviously like fantasy rules that apply, but the way of getting to the worlds are through the scientific discovery of punching holes to parallel universes. So I'm going to argue that I think this is a sci-fi game, not a fantasy game.
Okay, well, who's to say that it can't be both?
That's true.
That's not bad. I could go with that. So, all right. My number 9 is Phase. I love it says two sides, infinite possibilities. This is such a weird game, but I love the quirky bizarreness of this. It's a dueling game. It was originally, this is such a weird story. This game was originally meant to be a CCG back during like the big CCG boom, and it got shelved because the collectible card game market crashed. Way later on, having done the artwork and all of the rules for it, but never releasing it, AEG decided to do a surprise release of this on Black Friday one year. It was so weird, and like nobody knew it was coming, and then boom, oh look, new game. And they released it as all the cards are in here, so it's not collectible at all anymore. It's a self-contained card game, and it comes with 3 pre-constructed decks, 2 copies of each of those decks for you to play it out with. And it's very interesting how it works, where the cards are all multi-use. They all have 4 possible uses on every card, which can get a little overwhelming and confusing at times, but I think it's freaking awesome. So sometimes you get cards into your area where you use them as resources, in which case you flip them to pay for things. So basically, since each card can only be flipped once to pay for anything, the thing you're paying for is already also in that same area where your resources are. So if you have something that costs 4 and you have 5 total cards, you flip the other 4 and you can bring that card out. But then flipping those 4 now made one of the other cards, which used to cost 5, now only cost 3, so you can flip the other 3 and bring that one out as well. And it's this really cool chaining of effects. In addition, you can draw cards into your hand where there's a second ability on either side of the card that can be that card can be played kind of like a spell or an action card. And depending on which side you drew, those aren't allowed to be turned over, so that's the one you get. And even though they're double-sided, each card type, like let's say there's a guy who's like a goblin. There'll be 5 versions of the goblin in the box in here, and each one has a different card on the other side. So just seeing the backs of them, you have no idea. No idea what's on the other side. And so there's a lot of... this is definitely an interesting, cool game. Now, you said you liked this one.
Yeah.
So you not as much as me, I don't think.
No.
I don't think this will make your top 10 list. Have you played it, Phase?
No, I haven't.
It's really cool. It's very brain burny, but it's really fun. And that is my number 9, Phase. Number 8. Boom.
My number 8 is the Village Crone. You are all the players are witches who are trying to influence the villagers in this village to do what you want in order to fulfill these requirements to win the game. So there's a little bit of worker placement, a little bit of like hand management and resource management, and you can do things like make certain villagers fall in love or turn other villagers into frogs. And it's just really fun to mess with people, even if they're fictional.
I think you did a top 10 list of games that Josh finds completely forgettable, because this is another one where I'm like, after we play this, I don't remember. The minute after, I don't know how to play this game. That quick.
I've never played it, but it looks like something I would play.
Yeah, I think you would like it.
Yeah, I would probably like it. My number 8, we're on 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
My number 8 is a game that I find to be fun that these two don't really like.
What is
Dominion.
Is that fantasy?
Is it?
Yes, there's fantasy elements in that
I thought
game.
they're just like knights, and
There
I thought it was
are
just
witches.
historical. Are there witches?
There's, you know...
Well, we literally only played one game, so you may not have seen a witch.
There's also like a ton of expansions that add different elements.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So there are different, like there's alchemy, which I guess is not, that's science, or well, I don't know. It's
No,
alchemy.
it's fantasy.
You know,
Alchemy's not real.
it's whatever. There's
Yeah.
all these things, but yeah, it's a deck builder. I'm sure most of you have either heard about it or played it. It's a deck builder, and
I might argue that the game would need to have a theme to be fantasy. The game feels like it is so themeless. Like there's no interaction with the theme at all. It's just combining the cards and then playing the card. Yeah, I know.
yeah, you're building the deck. I mean, there is. I don't play the game if there's a witch in it because the witches are terrible and they curse you. But
I'm not. We're not fans. We're not fans
yeah,
of Dominion.
well, I don't really. Yeah.
Fair enough. My number 8 is Battlelore.
It says fantasy right on the box too.
It does, right? Where?
Oh, on this one it says a game of fantasy battles.
That's right. It is a game of fantasy battles.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game where you move around on a hex map and you battle it out between two fantasy armies. 2 different fantasy armies come in the box, and the one of the really cool things about it is they have a system to pick your battlefield where each player gets a few cards and you pick a card, and then the 2 cards fit together to tell you how to set up the battlefield, tell you where the points are that you want to control, because it's not about killing your opponent. It's actually about controlling, like King of the Hill style, controlling certain points that every turn will give you victory points. And when someone makes it to the victory points, usually like less than a quarter of the armies have actually been destroyed, but as soon as someone makes it to that victory point threshold, they win. The game is really cool. It's really fun. The fights are lots of dice rolling and attacking each other, and the fact that it's not really about killing each other. It's very tactical in that it's about, it's about using the right units to take and hold certain key points on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. And I like Battlelore a lot. I think it's a really good one. I know you like this one. This is one of the few
Yeah.
And you said this is one of the few war strategy games you like, but you said it's because of the King of the Hill nature.
No, it's because of the movement cards.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm terrible at strategy where you have to like figure out like how to move your guys to flank the other person's dudes.
Because it limits your choices.
Yeah, and it's like it's literally a hand of cards that tell you what you can do. So it kind of evens the playing field because you're really good at figuring out that stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of evens it and gives me a chance.
Yeah, so that what Lynn is talking about is they have cards that'll say something like full assault, and it'll say move one unit on your left flank, one unit on your right flank, and one unit on the one unit in the middle. Or it'll say left assault, and it'll say move 3 units on your left flank. Or it'll say cavalry charge, move 3 cavalry units. So you play a card, and then you get to do specifically what's there. You can also always discard a card to move any single unit. If you really need to use one specific unit, like you like to play the bad guys, you always have that big demon dude, and then sometimes you'll discard a card just to get him to be like, haha, I take the because when he gets on a point, he's like impossible to get off, because he's so tough. But yeah, no, this game is a lot of fun. I actually like those cards too. That's part of the Richard Borg design. That's part of his whole Command and Colors series. He's made so many games that use that now. This is like one of like 8 games because he's got like Command and Colors Ancients. He had one called Battle Cry, which is Civil War. And then he got a new one that's like a sci-fi spaceship battle one that again uses the same system. I was thinking of getting a copy of that actually. I do like it. So there you go. And that is Battlelore. Number 7.
My number 7 is Albion's Legacy. It is... What was that face
I'm just
for?
surprised this is this high on your list.
It's a game where you play King Arthur and the Knights of his Round Table, and I think they threw Guinevere in there as well. And you are supposed to defend Camelot from the attacking dragons, and there's other things besides dragons, but I mainly remember there was there's witches, there's all kinds of things, and you can you have to defend Camelot, but you can also go outside Camelot and explore.
Questing.
You can go questing, and it's really fun, and I really like it.
This game is very punishing, though. It can be like you can
we
lose.
Almost won.
Well, also it's one of the few games that you like that's cooperative.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of cooperatives myself, but this game isn't bad, but it's in my opinion, but it can be very punishing. It's a very difficult. It's one of those cooperative games where
you have to work to win. You can't
really
just sail through and win.
It's very challenging, but to the point where sometimes I feel like you lose because it's not even your fault, which can be upsetting. But you know, but no, it is a tough game. Definitely not a pushover.
My number 8 is one that we've all played.
I didn't even think of that.
Ex Libris.
There's so many fantasy creatures.
I know. I don't know.
There's a gelatinous cube.
I know, right?
Should this have been on your list?
I think so.
Oh,
but
whoops.
I didn't even think of it. Oh well.
Okay, well.
Ex Libris.
It's a worker placement.
Mm-hmm.
It's building a library. It's tableau building. It's just so good. The theming is really on point. I love the different...
There's unique player powers.
Yeah, the player powers, the different, the changing, what are they, the
Asymmetrical player powers? The changing spaces because the tiles change every round?
That's what I'm thinking of. I know the player powers, but man, this game is fun. I've never played this and then thought I've never won this game. But every time I play it, I just enjoy it. And I love the little details of it. Like, on each of the library cards, they have the
funny book names. They're
and
great.
They're hilarious.
I thoroughly agree with you on this one. This did not make my list, but this was one of the games where I was struggling because I wanted it to be on my list. And it was like that last space where Mystic Vale just made it. This was one of the games that could have made it instead of Mystic Vale. Like I got to the end of the list and I still had like 6 games where I was like, but I only have one spot. And this was one of those. And it hurt to cut this one.
Commas. You just... list all 6 games.
Honorable mentions.
Yes. Well, I will talk about it for everyone. Ex Libris, we all love it.
Yeah, no, it is a very good worker placement tableau building game, 100%. So my next one's another one that everybody here has played and everyone here has liked, and that is Root. A game of woodland might and right. So I love the art style in this. I love the fantasy anthropomorphic animal races. I love that this is a giant asymmetrical 4-player game where each faction is totally different. You have the cats, which play very much like standard area control, like an area control army. You have the birds, who play like an engine building / area control army. You have the Woodland Alliance, who goes around spreading sympathy and stealing cards from people until eventually they have an uprising and take over a couple of spots on the board. And you have the Vagabond, who goes around
just messing with people.
yeah, messing with everybody basically. Yeah, he's like, oh, I'll help you, and now I'm gonna stab you in the back.
Vagabond's a jerk.
Yeah, but it's, you know what, and it's really cool, and they're all incredibly different factions, and it's tough to say that it's very, I mean, it's impossible to properly balance something when the factions are so asymmetrical, but yet I always feel like the person who wins is the one who everybody underestimates in this game.
Absolutely.
It always seems to be like the person we don't concentrate on, that's the person who runs away with the victory.
Well, and I really want to try the expansion that includes the otters and what's the other one?
The lizards. Yeah, the lizards are cultists and the otters are the riverfolk.
Yeah, so I really want to try the expansion to see how those factions play, but again, I agree.
This one in the base box, my favorite is the birds, the Eerie dynasties. I like them a lot.
Cats are my favorite animal, but
I love the engine building.
I do want to play the Woodland Alliance the next time we play, because Lynn
has a stranglehold on. She won't let anyone else be the Woodland Alliance.
I love the Woodland Alliance.
They look like little bread.
Well, I think it's because they're very Robin Hood themed, and she's like, I'm gonna be the. But also, you like how they play.
Then you could play the Vagabond though, if we play with 4 players, because that's pretty like.
Yeah, you got some of them could go total Robin Hood and such. I think they go more Yojimbo personally. Totally go Yojimbo.
Okay, well.
Number 6.
My number 6 is Everdell.
From one game with anthropomorphic animals to another game with anthropomorphic animals.
This is a tableau builder where you're building a little village.
It's also worker placement too.
Yeah, worker placement, tableau building. You're building a village with little animals that populate it. And there's resource management as well.
Oh yeah.
It's got
there's a lot to this.
It's got a 3D tree that you put together.
Which is just, it's not necessary, but oh my god, it's visually appealing. It just looks so good.
The game mat looks like a giant lily pad.
Also, just looks awesome. It just looks awesome.
The berries are
feel
squishy. Like they're squishy.
That's because we have the collector's edition.
They feel like real berries, yeah.
And then the resin is.
But this,
it's fun, and I don't think I've ever won it or even come close to winning.
I win this almost every time I play it.
Well, yeah, Josh.
I love this game. But I think I lost once so far.
I do really enjoy playing it, even though I never win.
And that's how you know when it's a really good game.
Yes.
And obviously, we're all like chiming in because we all really like Everdell. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this could possibly be a crossover going on at some point. I'll have to say.
My number 6 is Ethnos. I love Ethnos. I love it's basically like a better Ticket to Ride, in my opinion.
I think of it. Yeah, I was gonna say it's got some similarities, but I mean the way you play the cards is very similar to Rummy 500.
Yes, which I also love.
You make the hand and then just be like boom, drop it, but then it lets you put stuff on the board.
It's amazing. It's fun. I would say this is a really light and easy game to teach. Also,
yeah, it's pretty easy.
Because I feel like anyone could just pick it up. I mean, the same way that. Anyone could play Ticket to Ride or Rummy 500. But this one is definitely fantasy. There's orcs and dragons.
There's like centaurs.
There's so many factions. One of the things I love about this is that the factions are the suits of the cards, and you shuffle up. There's a little deck with just one of each suit, and you shuffle it up and randomly deal what factions are in each game at the beginning of the game. So the mix is always different.
Yeah, and
always different.
The replayability on this one is fun.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I know Lynn's favorite part is the the hideous 80s colored little chits
the
that
neon
don't
colors.
match anything else in the game.
That is the only thing Lynn likes
Yes.
about this game. She doesn't actually like the game.
I
I
know.
love the game, but
I like the game too, but I actually think that the chits annoy me because they don't match anything.
there's a lot of people complaining how this game looks. I don't think it deserves all the hate that it gets. I think it looks fine for what it is, but the gameplay is really
That's
good.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
really
worth
like
it to me.
And this is another one that just missed my list. This probably would have been about like my 14 or 15 if I'd have done like a top 20.
Oh boy.
Well, no, because there were
so many.
there were a bunch that were fighting it out for that last couple places. This was one that was in the pool where I was again. It was like just didn't quite make it. So my number 6 is Century Golem Edition. And Century Golem Edition is basically the exact same game as Century Spice Road, except it's with the original intended fantasy theme of building golems. Which, yes, you heard me right. Apparently, and I found this out recently, this was meant to be the original theme, and they changed it to the boring trading spices. Why would you do that?
Spices is fun. I really like Century Spice Road. I'm not.
But is this not a better theme? Building golems is not a better theme than trading spices?
They're both good themes. They're
Oh,
good
this is a
themes
better
in their own
theme.
right.
They appeal to different people.
Exactly. I love
Well,
spices.
okay, so when Century Spice Road came out, I was like, just doesn't thrill me. The theme didn't catch me. Century Golem Edition came out, and I was like, okay, I'll try it now, and I'm glad I did because I love this game. This game's amazing. I love it.
So I feel like Century Spice Road, Century Golem Edition, they're both really good for people who like Splendor but want something more.
Yeah.
Because Splendor is one of my favorite games, but it's also like, once you get a strategy, you know the strategy, but
Right.
the Century Golem Edition, there's different
It's
cards.
way more varied,
and like,
yeah.
it's a lot more, I've never won it, but I love it.
So this is one where you on your turn, you do only one action, so turns go by very quickly. You either acquire a card. The card at the end of the row can be acquired for free. If you want to acquire a card further in, you drop off gems on the other cards. That if someone then acquires those cards, they will take the gems on them. The other option you can do for your turn is you can play a card from your hand, and that card may get you gems, or it may upgrade some of your existing gems, or something of that sort. And then the final choice is to pick up all the cards you've already played and put them back in your hand. So it's kind of a hand building. It feels a little bit like engine building to me, but yeah, this is a really fun game. If you guys haven't tried Century Golem Edition, I highly recommend it. This is another one like Athos, very easy to learn, very easy to teach. You could be up and running with this in about 15 minutes after reading the rules. It's just so quick and easy. But yeah, that's Century Golem Edition, far superior to the Spice Road.
They're both good.
Number 5.
My number 5, coincidentally, is, and I didn't do this.
You did
on
this.
purpose.
You did this.
It's
You did this.
I did not.
You say that all the time, but it happens too often not to be planned.
Anyway, 5 Tribes is it's got gin in it.
It sure does.
That's what makes it fantasy. And it's got a little camel pieces that are cute. And
It's got that Mancala
yes,
type of
you
rule.
You pick up all the pieces from a space, and then you have to drop one on other spaces connecting to it, and then you get to take all the colors of the last color. And it's fun. I mean, that's why it's my number 5.
It's a really good game. I love the whole like Mancala, but with strategy, because you can think about like, well, which way do I want to go? Where do I want to end? This is a fantastic game.
I've still not played this game.
Oh my god, you have
And
to play
it's
this
on
game.
my list. Yeah, it's on my list.
You gotta play it. 5 Tribes is fantastic,
Yeah.
definitely. Good choice, definitely.
My number 5 is Parade. Parade was just introduced to me recently, and it became one of the games that I ran out to the store and bought.
So was introduced to you recently by who introduced that to you?
The Boardgame Captain.
Oh, okay.
And Lynn. Mostly Lynn, because Lynn loves Parade and Alice
Indeed.
in Wonderland.
Lynn
And
does
it's Alice in
those,
Wonderland themed, so of course fantasy. But
I wonder if this is gonna be higher on Lynn's list. I'm curious.
I
We'll
mean,
have to wait and
we'll
see.
have to wait and see. But I love this game
It is
so
really
much. There's a little parade of cards in front of you, and you have to think ahead. And the last time we played, Lynn and I tied on it, and it was just like, it's just such a fun little game.
I love, so you play cards trying not to have to take any of the cards from the center row.
Right.
And because you don't want cards, because points are bad in this.
Well, it's like golf, yeah.
But if you get cards, you want the most of that suit, because the most of that suit means you'll flip them over, and instead of being worth their numerical value, they're only worth 1. So it's this weird thing of, you don't want any cards, but if you have that card of that suit, then you want the most of that suit. And it's so awesome. It is really good.
I often play the I'm going to get the most of the suit, because it just depends on what you have in your hand.
Yeah.
But there are cards, the 0s and the 1s. Like, I don't mind having those.
Oh, no, certainly not.
Obviously not the 0s. But yeah. Oh, super fun game.
Oh, yes.
Love it. And the artwork is really cute.
So my number 5 is Arcadia Quest. This is my favorite dungeon crawler right now. I used to be a big fan of dungeon crawler games, going all the way back to games like, and this is going to date me a little bit here, but I was a big fan of dungeon crawler games going all the way back to the likes of Hero Quest and Dragon Strike. And if you gamers out there remember them, then you're venerable like me. So here's the deal. Arcadia Quest is different from those in one key way. This is a competitive dungeon crawl. It's not cooperative. I used to like those cooperative dungeon crawls, but I got sick of them because I wasn't as big a fan of the cooperative games anymore, and also they felt like a RPG light, and I felt like if I wanted to play a game like that, I'd just play an actual role playing game. I'd do a role playing group. Whereas with Arcadia Quest, each person playing gets a party of 3 heroes, which is awesome. You get your own party of 3 heroes, and you're competing to loot the most treasure from the dungeon. And you can ignore each other and just fight the monsters, but you can even actually attack each other to try to slow each other down. Death is not permanent in this. If you kill someone, they do respawn. So it's not too bad if you attack someone else. And this game is a lot of fun. Lynn and I have restarted this campaign like 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. We never finish it, but we always go, hey, we should play the game again, and then we start it again and play through like 3 or 4 missions. But yeah, this is a really fun game. And you have your favorite characters, and I have my favorite characters. Have you tried this one?
No, we're gonna play this because I really am. You just gave me like the elevator pitch, and I'm in.
And you're in. Yeah. This is a really fun game. You would like it. Yeah. You would definitely like this one. And that is again Arcadia Quest, which, by the way, one of the designers is the absolutely legendary Eric Lang. So you know it's good because his name's on it. That's all. I'm just saying it's Eric Lang.
Okay.
Number 4.
My number 4 is Kodama, the Tree Spirits. Mm-hmm. You are building a magical tree with the help from the Tree Spirits, and you want to build the tree that gets the most points.
And you get points by lining up symbols along the cards. The cards are the tree branches as they grow out from the main card that is the trunk. This was my number 12 on my top 10 list because actually, like I said, I had so many I was fighting it out with. This almost made my list. Mm-hmm. Very close. It really did. No, it really did. It really did. It was so close. This was one of the ones where I struggled to cut this. It didn't quite make the list. But in fact, hold on.
Do you have it on?
Yeah, look.
Oh,
it's crossed out. Uh-huh. I had 3 different games fighting it out that were the final 3, and it was one of the final 3 that were fighting it out for my number 10 slot. So it's actually there, but crossed out. Okay. You think I'm lying?
No, I saw it.
It's true.
My number 4 game is Citadels. Citadels was probably the first real board game that's not Clue or...
The first modern?
Yeah, the first modern board game. Sorry, thank you. The first modern board game that I played. And my dad and I would play it 2-player. Now, it does not play well at 2 players.
I was going to say, you usually need a lot of players for that, don't you?
My dad and I played it so much. And honestly, like, I know that this game is not fun to play with other people. My dad and I just loved it, and it was like a really big bonding thing, and we had our favorite characters, and so like
totally understandable.
We always knew who was who, and you pick a role, and I was always the architect because he allowed you to build more things. And
I played this game once, and I won that game And I said afterwards, I'm never going to play this game again. I was like, it's too vicious for me. Because like and there are games I like that are vicious, but just I don't know. This one feels very mean spirited.
Well, I mean, there's an assassin and there's a thief, and
Yeah.
so the assassin literally kills another role. So if you can guess what another player is going to play as, you can be like, I'm going to kill the king, and then he doesn't even get a turn.
Yes,
Right?
and that's what I'm talking about. That's so vicious.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a nostalgia factor for me. It's
Understandable.
I love that
and well,
game.
and also though, just to be fair, there are plenty of people who thoroughly disagree with me and love this game, and you can love it not for nostalgia factor. If you enjoy playing it, you enjoy playing it. I mean, there are plenty of people that disagree with me.
But here's the thing: I only enjoyed playing it with my father,
so it is really
and
nostalgia.
I played it because I played it with two of my friends. And I was like, "Oh wow, this is really like annoying that you're killing my character." Like,
because that's the thing. Like, it happened to me a couple times during the game, and I was like,
it ruins the experience. He's like, "Oh, I was gonna do this thing, and now you just like ruined my turn." But yeah, no, it's.
I got killed twice in a row in that game. I still won the game, but I got killed twice in a row. So there were 2 turns in a row where I'm sitting there like this, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! I'm not even getting to do anything." So yeah, that felt brutal to me. Anyway, my number 4. We're on 4.
Yeah, we're on 4.
My number 4 is Fight for Olympus. So Fight for Olympus is a dueling game where you have a little board in the middle of the table and you play cards to different areas. There's one area that can help you get points. The points are interesting because they're on a pendulum. So the point pendulum either goes towards your opponent's side or towards your side. So gaining points means you take points away from your opponent, which is really bizarre. And then there's another space where it can get you extra resources to help you play cards. And there's another place that lets you draw extra cards. And what it is if you have a card in a place and he's unopposed, there's nobody from your opponent on the other side, you get to do that ability. Otherwise, if your opponent puts someone there instead, they fight. And the people who can possibly fight are all mythical characters from Greek mythology. So you have like Heracles and Hector and Achilles and all different characters. And what the theme of the game is that you are different gods from Olympus, and you are controlling the mortals to fight out the wars like you are playing a game. And that is Fight for Olympus. Now, you told me recently that you're getting sick of the dueling games, but you said you like this one because it feels different.
Yeah, it does. I don't know why.
Is it because of the space, the areas,
Maybe.
the area control to it?
Maybe. And I don't usually like area control games, and I like.
But you like this one?
Yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
Oh, fair enough.
I haven't tried this one. I think we should play it.
It is really cool.
I mean, I feel like I say this all the time. I'm just like, we should play this. We should play
Well,
this.
I mean, anytime you hear about a good game, that's my thought too. It's like, why haven't I tried this
Yeah, I
before?
know,
This
yeah.
sounds like fun. I would
Exactly,
enjoy this. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's Fight for Olympus. Number 3.
My number 3 is Parade, which Juliana has already mentioned.
I thought this would be a crossover between the two of you. Crossover between the two of you.
Yes, it's Alice in Wonderland and fun, and we've already
discussed it.
already
Yeah.
talked a bunch about it.
But that is that was in your top 10 games of all time
Yes.
list, so that had to be on here. That's what I was thinking. Unless you had forgotten, like you forgot
No, well, yeah.
with a previous game that you had mentioned. So
That's true. I do forget.
That I had mentioned. My number 3 is Root, which was also a previous mention.
crossover,
Oh
crossover.
my gosh, I love Root so much.
It's so good.
I think I rated this like a 9, right?
I think you might have.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I love this game.
We got to play some more, and we do have to play. We have to try the
play
expansion.
more. I want to play the expansion. I love this game. The theme.
I might have to fight you for the Riverfolk though.
No,
I think I want to be the
I
River.
will fight you.
No, but I
don't
want to be the Riverfolk.
But I do want to try playing the Woodland Alliance, like I mentioned. I also do want to try it with the Vagabond.
Well, one of the interesting things about the expansion is the expansion allows you to have 2 players being vagabonds.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Which could be
Why
really
not
crazy.
all 3 be vagabonds?
Yeah, I know. Like, let's just all be vagabonds
There's
and then
no,
call
there's
it a
no,
day.
there's no rules.
I don't think. Well, I don't think you're supposed to have 2 people being a vagabond unless you're playing at least 4 players.
Okay.
So I think
Well,
you're supposed to have.
so
Yeah.
the expansion adds 2 more players, right?
Yeah.
So
You can
then
have
it's
up to 6.
Up to 6,
Yeah.
right? So that's something that we need to get Alex over here, Alex and Sabrina.
Yeah, do a big game day.
Yeah.
Big game day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a great game. Absolutely great game.
Love it.
100%.
Yep.
100% agree. So my number 3 is, and These are all crossovers.
Yeah.
I just realized this. So my number 3 is a crossover too. It's a crossover with Lynn. It's 5 Tribes. So we talked a lot about how awesome this game is. So I'm not going to really say much. I love planning out the moves. I love grabbing a bunch of meeples and going 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, look, now I drop the last piece here is a green meeple. I get all the green meeples, and then I get to do the ability of the green meeples. And some of the abilities are amazing. Each different color meeple has a different ability. I love bidding for turn order. You bid for turn order at the beginning of every game. It's almost like a mini game in here. And I love the Jin powers. The Jin powers can like make or break your strategy. If you find a Jin that gives you extra points for whatever strategy you're already going for, it's like, oh my god, I have this game in the bag. It's so great. It's like wow, I've been collecting all of the palaces, and look, the Jin who gives bonus points for all palaces just came up. Mine. So good. And that's 5 Tribes. I just wanted to add those in.
Okay.
That's it. Number 2.
My number 2 is Woodlands, the Fabulous Tiling game. It is a game where you have to sort of make a maze in a certain amount of time, avoiding certain things and gathering other things, and then you at the end of the time you put a clear plastic overlay, and you see how well you did.
There's a picture on the back that actually shows it pretty well.
Yeah, and you each there's 4 or 5 different quests. They're all on the cover.
There's the series of games that are Robin Hood. There's King Arthur. There's
Dracula.
Little Red Riding Hood, and there's Dracula.
So is it 4?
4. So there's 4, but I think all of them have 4 rounds each, except for Dracula, who has 5. We've actually played all of them at least once.
And I mean, it's I forgot where I was going with that, but
there's a lot of variety.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and there's also the tiles are double-sided. So
there's a hard side.
You can make them if you're finding it too difficult. I mean, too easy. You can make it more difficult. And
then there's also don't forget, there's also the extra overlays. We still haven't tried those.
Yeah,
where you can replay them with extra things to get points.
With 2 overlays. It's a lot of fun. It's got multiple of my favorite things in it, like Robin Hood and King Arthur and Dracula.
This is a very fun game. This wouldn't have made my list, but I do agree it's a very good game. I do like this one a lot. Just I don't like it as much as you do. But now this made it higher on your list than Parade, which I happen to know for a fact last year was on your top 10 games of all time when we did our top 100 of all time list. So I'm expecting the next time we do our top 100 of all time, this is going to be definitely very high.
Probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow.
It's a good... I haven't played it, but I want to play it now.
I love it.
My number 2 is a game that you guys don't have, Clank.
Yes, I'm familiar with it. We don't own a copy of Clank.
It's a dungeon crawler deck builder where you're trying to sneak around a sleeping dragon and grab treasures. And I love deck builders, and I love the theme of sneaking in a dungeon and then escaping, and you can die in the dungeon, and I just think it's like super fun.
It's always more fun when there's a possibility of death.
Agreed. And the thing is that you can still you still are in the game when you die. You just don't get any extra points for escaping. But I really like it, and they have a couple expansions that are pretty fun, except for Clank in Space. Clank in Space is terrible.
Oh, you didn't like Clank? A lot of people... I haven't played either, but I've heard from a lot of people that they thought Clank in Space was the superior version.
They're wrong.
Oh, fair enough. You know what's funny? So the theme of Clank reminds me so much of this old, terrible board game from when I was a kid back in the 80s that was called Don't Wake the Dragon.
Yeah.
Did you remember that game?
Yeah, of course I remember that game.
It's like a simpler roll and move version of Clank.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if he's sleeping in the game, but like he does like...
But you don't want to alert him to your presence.
You want to alert, because like Clank, it's basically saying like that you make noise, and if you make noise, you have to put some Clank in the bag, and then at the beginning of each turn, we have to draw out tiles, and if the tile matches your player color, then you lose a heart. So
my number 2 is a crossover, and it is Everdell, for all the reasons we discussed about the awesomeness of the worker placement, the changing of the there's usually 4 unique spots that get dealt out as cards that you can play on every round. There's lots of different ways to get points, plus the building of your village and the getting of people to live in your village. I say people, they're furry animals and they're adorable. All of that together is amazing. I just want to show the little bat reading a book while hanging upside down.
He's the cutest.
Yeah, Everdell is phenomenal. This is like one of my favorite games to come out in all of 2018. I absolutely adore this game. This game is fantastic, and I mean it's yeah. There were some really good games in 2018. We've already named some of them because Root was already on a couple of our lists. But yeah, Everdell I like even better than Root. I love both of them a lot, but yeah, this edged it out.
See,
a little bit.
I love both Everdell and Root, but I think that Everdell for me, I didn't think of it.
Didn't occur to you?
It didn't occur to me. I don't know.
It was one of the first. Actually, it was one of the early games I was looking at. I'm like, oh, that's got to be on my list.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
It's a great game. I love it.
Fantastic. And now it is time for number 1.
My number 1, I'm sure this is going to be a surprise to everyone.
Anyone who watches this channel knows what your number 1 is.
No one is gonna guess this. It's Tales of the Arabian Nights.
This makes it on, this, at least it fits on this list, but this, like, you put this on like every freaking list.
This could go on.
This was on the historical list, and it did not belong on the historical list.
It does belong on the
Did not.
1001 Nights is an actual book.
Yes, but it's not historical. It's a fantasy book. That's like saying, Lord of the Rings could be on a historical list. No, it's a fiction. It's fantasy.
Anyway, this is a storytelling game.
Yes.
Where you tell a story every round, and it is, it's necessary to tell the story for the game.
This game is like head and shoulders above all other games for you. I know. That's why it makes so many of your lists.
There's Jinn. There's mermen who are mean.
Always mean. They're fine to me. They always throw you in the water.
You get thrown in jail every time.
I do. I'm always in jail.
Yes. There's wizards. There's enchantresses. It's just, I love it. It's my favorite game ever.
I love this game also. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this wasn't on my list, but I love this game.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
It plays really well at 3 people because
we don't need him.
It's all right.
But, yeah.
It's all right. Not bad.
Yeah.
Mediocre.
I love it. My number 1 is Hogwarts Battle.
Oh.
Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. It is.
You've been talking about that a
deck
lot lately.
builder. Yeah, well, you guys didn't read Harry Potter, so I never brought it around. Plus, I think that
we've seen the movies though.
I read the first book.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it is based off of the movies, not off of the books.
Oh, see?
I know, but, I never take it like that. I always play it as though it's the book. Anyway, I'm a book snob when it comes to that. So, anyway, it's a Harry Potter deck builder, and it is cooperative, which I think is another reason why I haven't brought it around.
Yeah, I'm not a big cooperative person.
But you play through 7 different levels, basically. So it's like the first book, the second book, the third book. And you add different enemies and different extra cards that you can get, and I love it. I would play that game anytime, any place, anywhere, with anyone. I would probably even play it by myself, honestly. I'll probably just try and play as all 4 characters. I'd just do that.
Just do like a variation of the Billy Idol song, be like, playing with my no,
they just released an expansion couple years, last year, 2 years ago, I don't know, a while ago, and I played it for the first time and I didn't win, and I still haven't won because it's really hard, which I like. But,
very challenging, huh?
Yeah, and you can play as Luna Lovegood, and I'm basically a Luna Lovegood person.
So I guess it's time for my number 1. Mm-hmm. My number 1, which also, you know what? I don't think it's going to be as obvious as yours, but also people who watch a lot of our top 10 lists probably have guessed this is going to be my number 1 fantasy game, and that is Blood Rage, where you are a clan of Vikings playing out the Viking Ragnarok. There are trolls. There are sea serpents. There are giants. There are there is the Yggdrasil tree and all the different worlds on it are around there, and they slowly get destroyed as the Ragnarok happens. And there are all sorts. And one of the things I really love about this game is how there are so many strategies, so many different ways to earn points. You can earn points by there are cards that you can play that will gain you points by killing lots of your enemies, but there's sometimes you trick your enemies into killing lots of your cards, and then you play killing lots of your soldiers, and then you play a card where you earn points for all of your own guys who died in combat, and you're like, well, thanks, you just gave me a whole bunch of points. And it's fantastic. I love the sudden reveal of that was what my goal was all along. Thanks for murdering me. It's so awesome when you do that. That is also generally known as the Loki strategy. So yes, and that is Blood Rage. Blood Rage is an area control game with a giant twist. And this one is designed by Eric Lang. And this is the game that made everyone realize that Eric Lang was one of the top tier designers in the industry, and rightfully so.
I've never heard of him until today.
Seriously? He is the head of like game development over at CMON now. They hired him permanently. He just did a bunch of games for them, and then after and this was the one that sold like ludicrously well. And then after this and a couple others, they hired him on permanently on salary, basically to be in charge of finding and developing games with other designers because he's just so good.
I think I'm just terrible at remembering names of the designers.
Oh, okay.
So,
He's one of my favorites, though.
Yeah, but I do like Reiner Knizia. Oh.
So there you go, Reiner Knizia, you know. So.
And then Uwe Rosenberg.
So so with Eric Lang, he did Blood Rage with some. He did a lot of games with other designers. So which I named earlier, he had done Arcadia Quest, and one of Lynn's favorites, which she didn't put on here, even though it would have been fantasy. He was one of the co-designers of Quarriors.
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the. It's funny. Like you look through our favorite games, he appears again and again. He's just a really good designer. Like when you see his name on a box.
Dragons and warriors. I didn't think there were. I forgot there were dragons.
There's also goblins and there's all sorts of magical stuff.
Dragons are what we determined was like.
That's definitely fantasy. Yeah.
Fantasy.
So that's it. That is our top 10 fantasy themed games. Tell us in the comments down below what are your favorite fantasy themed games, and feel free to tell us in the comments down below what you think of some of our choices. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more top 10 lists like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube, and hit that little bell icon on my channel so you get updates and alerts every time I upload a new video. And until next time, game on!